perhaps the detail that no one is talking about when it comes to the polls, because they are focused on the horse race of Team Red and Team Blue, or focusing on the Teals as a way of dislodging Team Red, or focusing on the Greens because they are a way of dislodging Team Red, the Teals for Team Blue. Got a lot in my head at once here. Let's talk about One Nation, because One Nation is polling very, very well. Nobody's talking about it because they don't want to talk to One Nation people. You know, we talk to Pauline. You know, we support many and much of the things that she stands for in and out of the parliament. In terms of her, she's not on the ballot. It'll be Malcolm Roberts with the best chance of winning a Senate seat in Queensland. But have a look. In 2022, they got 5%. News poll today says their vote is up to 7%. The Essential poll, 8%, and the Resolve poll, 9%. So anywhere between 2 and 4 points has been the increase in the One Nation vote since the 2022 election. That is massive. Not just because it may well affect certain Senate races, most likely in places like Western Australia, Tasmania, maybe New South Wales, but definitely it makes things better in Queensland. Something that is being grossly under-calculated in many of these polls, under-discussed in the wall-to-wall coverage of polls and politics, is something's going on in Australia right now with One Nation. Now, there have been plenty of polls ahead of previous elections that have shown that their numbers were slightly going up, but maybe the vote doesn't turn up. But if we can bring back again that vision of where we were in 22 versus where we are now when it comes to One Nation, pretty healthy. 2 points, you could say, is margin of error. Once you start to get to 3 and 4, then there has been a serious move. Where do these people come from? Do they come from the Liberal Party? Do they come back from the Other or the Independent? Are they part of the United Australia Party, of which I think only 1% is currently sticking around under the new banner? Wait and watch this space, because 9% of preferences, where the first vote might go to One Nation, but the second vote might go to the Liberal Party, will tip seats. And it won't matter what the two-party preferred is going into election day. The result in the seats that matter, and sometimes One Nation can surprise in its votes, particularly in places like Western Sydney and outer Melbourne and northern Tasmania. A lot more people need to keep an eye on One Nation, and I would suggest actually start talking to them. Not trying to interrupt them, not trying to talk over them, not trying to embarrass them, not trying to come up with some scandal like they have in previous elections. Normally they like to do this the day after all of the candidates are locked in. But people seem to like some of the ideas which have been put on the table by One Nation, including policy ideas. Chief amongst them, that if only one person in your house is working, rather than that person getting taxed at the full amount that they are earning, you divide it by 2 if they have a spouse. That brings down their taxes. One of many good ideas, on top of issues like immigration, which I know they will say is racist to talk about, but the reality is 1 million more people being added to the nearly 30 million who live here now means every queue got longer, every service harder to access, more ambulance ramping, harder to get your kids into the school that you want to, and over and over and over again, let alone renting or let alone trying to bid at an auction.